Hey y'all, Gary Simon of Corsetro, and in this video today, we're going to be taking a look at creating custom user interfaces using Adobe XD. Now, XD just released to the official 1.0 version, so it's out of beta. So now I thought it would be a really good time to do a brand new tutorial, bringing everybody up to date. And it's really not going to be about the tools in Adobe XD. This video is really going to be about the concepts, about what it takes to create solid user interfaces. Because I know a lot of you are new to this, and when you're new to this type of thing, you're probably not thinking a lot about these really core fundamentals that you really need to be at the forefront of your mind when you're designing. So I'm going to do my best as I'm designing to describe and explain why I'm doing the things I'm doing. All right, so make sure you check out Corsetro.com and also subscribe here on YouTube if you like this, and you're going to, so you might as well just go ahead and do it. So I'm going to switch over to the desktop here, and this is the new window, the new document portion. When you load up Adobe XD, we're going to choose Web 1920 just by default. All right, so also mind you, when I go through this, I do not have any custom colors predefined. Usually I'll do that to make my life a little bit easier. So I'm just going to kind of wing it and hope for the best here. So the very first thing I want to establish is a background. So we click on the artboard name, which is Web 1920. I'll just call this app by double clicking on it. And all these damn dogs. And what we'll do is over here, for appearance, we want to fill, of course. We don't want it white. I'm going to choose a gradient. I don't always choose gradients. Actually, I very rarely do, but for this, I'm making an exception. This is kind of more experimental, kind of going back to old school. I'm going to be using gradients in this design. So right here for the first color picker, I'm going to come just like in a turquoise sort of color right around there. And you can see the color code down here if you need to. Hopefully you can see it in the video. And then on the second one, we're going to come around the same area, maybe just slightly a little bit more green. It's not going to be too different. We don't want it to be too different. So something right around there. And it's 14955D if you want to follow along exactly. All right, so that looks good. The next, we're going to create the actual rectangle that will house the interface itself. So I'm just going to left click and drag out somewhere right around here. It's going to fit in nice and easy with a lot of margin and padding between the background here and itself. And then also, once we do that, I want to bring these little corner angles in just a bit, but not too much, maybe right around there. All right, great. So at this point, when we're considering color for this, we have to really consider and contrast it with the background. So if you look here, this is great because there's a lot of contrast between this foreground element, which will house the user interface, and the background. We could also make it darker than the background, but it has to be significantly darker. So if I look over here, I just realized I was showing myself when I was doing that. Sorry about that. If we take this darker, we can see there's also a lot of contrast. So there's tons of contrast here, and then there's less there's the same amount of contrast here if we go really dark. What you don't want is this. There's still a decent amount of contrast, but if we look over here, if we get a little bit lighter, oh man, it just makes you want to shoot yourself. You don't want to do that because you can barely see like the difference or the contrast between these two elements here. It hurts your eyes almost. So that's one thing to always consider is contrast. It's like one of the core foundational principles of any type of design. So we could go white or we can go dark. I'm going to go dark, and it's going to be in this blue area, and roughly right around there looks pretty good. All right, so that is 20313A, or 13A. Sorry about that. All right, we can also add this to the color swatches right there. Okay, next I'm going to create sort of like a top bar along the top. So I'm going to hit Control D to duplicate that. We could take a look at our layers too, by the way. So we could see we have rectangle 1 and 2. It's just copies of each other. I'm going to drag this one up on top, roughly right around here. We don't want a border, so I'm going to uncheck that. And we also don't want it to be rounded here at the bottom. So the way we do that, I'm going to zoom up. Oh, by the way, this bottom one, we don't want a border there either. So just so we can see this temporarily, I'm going to make it white. We don't want this rounded angle here, so we're going to double click, choose that one. So I'm left clicking on this anchor point, and I'm also going to come over here. I'm going to hold the space, and my damn cat just jumped on the desk here, messing me all up. All right, so I just select both of those while holding shift and hit delete, and that's how you get rid of that. And we're going to make this top maybe just slightly darker. So to do that, on my fill, I got my dog up here, by the way. The cat is on my desk. Oh, this is turning into like a nightmare. Oh, well, I'm not going to worry too much. All right, that's pretty good right there. All right, so also when you do this, you could see if I double click this, let me make this white real quick. Let me add this to the swatches so we still have it. We'll see that this right here is affecting that. There's a little directional anchor, so I just push that up, and it's happening over here as well. There we go. Now it should be straight across. All right, so now let's take this, we'll make that color again, right around there. All right, cool. That works. Now we're gonna have a sidebar. So to do that, we'll also just go ahead and take this, hit Control D. So it created another duplicate over here. Dragging this in, and this time we'll make it the same color as the top, just initially, and then this is going to be real hard to see. I want to make sure we can see all the differences here, because the differences in color are going to be slight. All right, so we have this. Yeah, actually it's going to be really close to the top, so I'm going to change the top here to be slightly darker. So now we can see kind of a difference between these three here. And what just happened? I accidentally moved that over. No big deal. I'll try to fix this. There we go. Okay. All right, so far so good. Now I'm going to add kind of like a logo area right here. So with the type tool, I'm going to put in tactical stuff. That's going to be the name of this weird app or company or whatever it is. By default, I'm going to choose Railway font, and that's a free font. You guys can download. I use it in a lot of my videos. And I'm also going to change this here to bold and choose a color like right around here at the top. This is going to be white, just to create a little bit difference and like a little bit of a word mark logo. All right, right there's pretty good. I'm going to put a vertical navigation right here, make it line up with the very left side where this begins. So this is going to be right there. I'm going to put in Railway for the font. We'll take down the size just slightly, maybe right around there. And I'm going to change it to semi-bold. And also the color, we don't want it to be gray. We'll go ahead and just choose this by default, and we'll just bring it up so we have a good amount of contrast there. Okay, so looking at this, in terms of alignment, alignment is another thing that is absolutely critical when you're designing your user interfaces. Every element needs to be aligned in sort of a thought out, symmetrical way. And so what I mean by that is if we look at the logo right here, we could see I didn't choose to put it right over here because that throws things off. There's a lot of padding at the top, but now there's like a fourth of that padding right here. So you want equal padding and margins between your elements. You can also see that vertically when it comes to this top bar right here, it's right in the center. So you need to make sure you pay attention to that. And it's just one of those things that if you're new to this type of design, you're usually not thinking about it. And that's one of the pitfalls. It just results in a design that just looks bad. You're not sure why, and you're mad, and life is horrible and everything. So just think of that going forward. Now, the same thing here. We don't necessarily have to, for instance, we have a certain amount of padding between this portion in here and then this portion here. You don't have to maintain that necessarily for almost every element. When it comes to repeating elements, you definitely should have an even amount of white space between these elements. So to repeat a vertical navigation here in Adobe XD, we'll click on that little repeat grid and just pull down. And we'll just have 4 links here initially. And let's see what this looks like at 100%. I'm still going to make these smaller, which I can make that adjustment in a little bit later. Right around there is good. Once we're happy with that, we can ungroup it. And then I'm going to take all 4 of these by holding Shift and just scale it down just a little bit more. I'm going to make them a little bit smaller. This next one I'm going to call Tactical, and I'm just coming up with names that really don't make sense. Briefings and Intel. All right, cool. Now we're going to simulate what it looks like when one of these is selected. So to do that, we're going to create a rectangle right here. All right, we can adjust a few other things afterwards. We can get rid of the border here. And we're going to use this fill, take the eyedropper tool. Actually, I kind of want this to be a little bit brighter. So I'm going to come up like right there. And now we're going to position this beneath. This one will make the fill right here. So as you can see, when it comes to selecting items, you want the contrast also to be quite high. So here we're just simply inversing the color scheme that we're really working with. Up here, I don't like that this is a little bit off. It should be this one right here. And we can add this to our swatches too. All right, great. So far, so good. Now notice, when we were creating the spacing between each of these, I gave it a lot of room. That's another thing that new designers kind of get wrong. They cram everything together. They make everything extremely tiny. No, give things room to breathe. If there's anything that you should walk away with this video, it's that things need to have space between them. Now, obviously, you can do too much space, but usually new designers, they're cramming everything in together. I'm not sure why. I did the same thing. Okay. That looks pretty good so far to me. All right, so right here, we're going to have sort of like a video player, kind of like a video type thing. I really, when I designed this, I wasn't really thinking of any type of specific project in mind. I just wanted to come up with something that looked interesting, from which I could, show you design principles and stuff. So make sure this is kind of 100% in this section right here in the main body of this app. And the color doesn't matter because what we're going to do now is I found through images.google.com, I sorted it by free to use images and also free to modify images. And I came up with this one. I will do my best to remember to link this in the description so that you guys can just quickly access this. And just take this image, you can save it to your desktop somewhere, and When you do that, that photo is right here. Make sure this is selected, and we're going to just simply drag this over there. Ta-da! It's one of the exciting things about Adobe XD. So this is pretty good looking right here. We're going to take the opacity down quite a bit. So maybe around 37%. All right, that looks good. And underneath it, we're going to create kind of like a bar where there's like a progress bar as if this is a video. So I'm going to take another rectangle, drag it out. Maybe right around there looks good. And no border. Get this background here. Click on it, make it slightly darker. Just like that. Okay. Now let's go ahead and the next part. Also I wanted to just mention, when it comes to these type of layouts, detail is key. When it comes to sort of futuristic / gamers, what really makes it are the details. So I'm going to sit here and real quickly try to make a little video player UI. So we'll take the pen tool, holding shift, just to create a little play icon. And I don't like, for some reason, they don't allow you to see if this is in the middle or not. But yeah, no big deal. Right there is pretty good. We're going to use our foreground color right there. We're going to create kind of by the way, I'm going to make this a little bit smaller. We're going to create the actual progress section. So I'm going to take a thin, sort of skinny little bar here, and we'll put in a slightly darker color right around there. All right, we want this to be in the center. I'm going to zoom way up here. Zoom up more. We can see we can also drag this out. We're going to have an area where there's the time. Now, once you have that in place, Control D to duplicate it, and we'll change the color to our primary color here. Then we'll drag this in just to emulate, okay, this is perhaps near the center or so. It's like inactive, actively being played or whatever. So let's come over here and put in a type here. And what I could do is, like, from here to here, I can left click and drag out a text area and then center it right here. And I'll just put something random like 0431. Again, we'll use our railway. Actually, no, railway has really ugly type for fonts, so we're not going to use that. Let's see here. What else do I want to do? We'll make it also this bright color. Take the size down. So you can just left click and drag down in this little area right there. All right, coming along so far so good. Another thing I wanted to add real quick would be an area where, for instance, if you hovered over or clicked, I don't really know, I haven't thought about it in terms of whether it's a hover or click. Either way, this pop-up will show up over here. So to do that, we'll take our rectangle tool again, maybe drag out an area about this size, get rid of the border. It's always applying that damn border. And then we'll make it black, but we'll take down the opacity right around 65%. So inside we'll have some type. Now just try to remember, keep in your mind when we're adding the type, we're trying to really pay attention to margin, padding, white space, all that stuff. So I'm going to put in waterboarding 101. I don't know why I chose that. We'll put in, yeah, we'll make that our primary color. Railway. We'll take the, let's see here, we'll make this bold. All right, so position. So right here seems pretty good. The top of the type is matching the middle of this section over here, and also from here to here, it has even space. Next, we'll take the type tool again. I'm going to left click and drag out a section, and you can see exactly where I have. It's pretty much even space all around from its parent container, that black container. So it has a lot of space from which it can breathe. And so if you go to lipsum.com, you can get your lorem ipsum generated fake text to put in. Let me do that real quick right here. I'm just going to copy that. Sorry, it wasn't highlighting for me. There we go. Take this, paste that in. Obviously, some major adjustments here. So size goes way down here. We don't want it bold. Medium looks pretty good. I'm going to put a space in here. All right. And then we'll go ahead and make this not that color, because if we leave it that color, even though we do have a lot of different, a lot of contrast here, there's no separation. And this is another thing that's real important, something called visual hierarchy. And this isn't just specific to UI design. It's pretty much universally applicable to any type of design. Visual hierarchy is creating a separation between the different elements and also prioritizing different elements in your design. So you do that through size, color, in actual physical, horizontal, and vertical position, and all that stuff. So right here, we're giving them the same color, so it kind of creates, it's a little bit hard to see a distinction between the two. So we can increase that distinction by changing the color. So I'm going to make this color that we've been working with, except it's going to be up here, more on the desaturated side. Maybe right around there. And then we can also increase the line height. Oops, that was the size. Sorry about that. Right around there. All right, cool. Another thing, we'll create some sort of very strange kind of navigation for like a sub-navigation over here. So I'm just going to hit Control D to copy that. Going to move it over on the right just like a few times on my right arrow key. Take this up to 100%, and we'll make this the color we've been working with. All right, and then we'll take this, Control D, and right now it's at the bottom. Let's bring this to the top. And we're going to rotate it over here to 90 degrees. Remember, try to keep things all centered up right there. So if I double click this, we have to double click up here. And I'm just going to put in intelligence. I better have spelled that right, or it'd be quite ironic. Right there. All right, and then we'll take both of these and we'll hit repeat grid and pull it out to the right. Just 2 times. And we'll bring in the space pretty much even with the space that was over here. So ungroup it, and now we can just change these real quick. Psyops. And this one will be Putin. I don't know what I was thinking here. Right there. All right, looking pretty cool at this point. Let's see here. It's kind of very wide, but that's okay. The original one design was a little bit less wide like this in terms of aspect ratio. All right, so let's continue on. This is getting close, getting there, getting close. another thing I want to do is add some icons. And so a great resource to getting icons is at iconfinder.com. You can sort by icons, like whether or not they're free and don't require backlinks from your website or your project if you want to use them. This is one of those cases. So I typed in satellite and I found this one, and now also it's a set, so it shows all those down there. So I just chose 3 of these and I downloaded the SVG. So you can click SVG, SVG, just get 3 of them and then save them to your desktop. And now you can see where mine are. Now I'm just going to left click and drag somewhere at the top, and I might as well do each one of these real quickly. Oops. When you do this, you want to make sure nothing else is selected, because it'll try to impose it into that section. All right, so now we have this cluttered mess over here. Now, sometimes when you import the SVGs from Iconfinder or anywhere else, and you try to change the color, you may think you're not able to, but you are. It just has to do with the groupings and structures based on whoever created it. So if I double click, or if I try to change the color over here just by clicking on it, we see it's not there, but that's because it's in a group. And so this one has a bunch of groups for some reason, and now we can see we have access to change the color to our main color right here. So now we can just really decrease that size quite a bit. Let's see, right around there. You see it's small. You don't want icons, for instance, if you're going to place them in a bar, like this big. That looks terrible. It will never look good. Please don't do it. So we'll take this down, give things room to breathe. You can see it's also an equal space from the top and right. All right. And we'll just keep on repeating that process. So come in here, here, and here. Take both of these paths by holding Shift and change that color. Let me do that real quick over here while I'm in that mode. Change that. All right, great. So now I'll take this one, scale it down big time, kind of just get it over there randomly, and then same thing with this one, scale it down. Holding Shift and Alt while I do this, and that changes how it scales down towards the center. All right, so you want these to be, obviously, for purposes of consistency, the same size. Otherwise, it's just going to make your design look like garbage. And also equal space between. And it gives you kind of like a purple guide there to help you with that process. All right, that looks good. We're almost done. Almost. So at the bottom, we have some empty space here. So I thought, okay, maybe this can be some type of video thumbnails. And oops, I'm going to zoom up like this. I'm going to, let's hide this real quick. Take the pen tool. I'm going to hold Shift, left click, and left click right around there. Then hit Escape. And then we're going to change the border rather, right around there. So that's 445761. All right. And then I'm going to duplicate that with Control D and then drag this right over here while holding Shift so that they're equal size. And I'm holding Shift and just dragging it to the right. I'm going to take both of these, Control D to duplicate them. Holding Shift, there we go. So now we've drug it down, or we flipped the order rather. And then select, let's see here, these 4. Might be easier just to go over here and just select these paths. And I'm going to group them. Control G, we'll put them in a group. And get these evened up over here with the white space. Also, making it start at the left of this play icon would make sense too. All right, and then inside of here, we're going to take this, Control D to duplicate it, bring this here in the middle. Hold Shift and Alt to scale that up. We're going to make the fill this color. All right, and then also we'll take a ellipse in the center, holding Shift and Alt, and scale that up. Drag it down. Oh, 1 second. Let me move this over real quick. Let's find this guy and drag it up here. Our ellipse will go underneath that. Get rid of the border here. And then we'll make this fill that color right here, which is this. I think it's the same, or very close at least. All right, so we have these two elements. We want to make sure that in the center, there we go. Actually, that's the center of this. I want to make sure that's, yep. All right, so we'll take this, and then this as well, and then hit Control G, and then we'll use Repeat Grid to make it go all the way across. How many are here? About 5. Wow, it's kind of hard to see those, but they're there. And especially in this video, you may not be able to see them very well. All right, great. So another thing I want to do real quickly is kind of create... What happened there? This got moved again, I think. Let me move that into place. All right, good. It creates sort of like a little picker, or I'm not even sure what you would describe this as. I'm just taking a rectangle right here, and then also we'll make it that darker color. Like I said, the details in these kind of intricate user interfaces is what really makes them more impressive. So this will be this color. We have an ellipse here. Even space. Right in the middle, right there. Awesome. All right. Another thing that I wanted to do is to take this, the very first layer that we created, duplicate it. We'll take the one at the bottom. We're going to hold Alt, scale this out, maybe right around here, and then also take the top, hold Alt, scale that down just a bit as if there's another panel back here, and take the opacity right around 50%. And that just kind of adds an extra layer of something that's interesting in the design, essentially. Another thing I wanted to do is we'll take this, we're going to duplicate it, Control D. We're going to drag it just to above, or actually just to the very bottom. So let's drag this up here. Now it's at the very bottom. I'm going to move this up real quick because I don't want to select the one on the top. So I'm taking my keyboard and just putting that right around there. And then I'm going to duplicate that with Control D. Change the fill to anything random. And maybe just white. And then change this to a background blur. So you have this amount over here. And the opacity. Let's see here, brightness. Yeah, we can also take down this fill as well. And let me experiment with something because we can really increase the blur if we do something. Increase that opacity, take this one. It's not blurring it very much. There we go. That opacity up there has to be changed. It has to be increased all the way to 100%. Do I like that? Let's see here. Yeah, I think I do. I think I like that. Sometimes you come back to things and You're thinking to yourself, I'm not sure if I like that. We'll leave it at that for now. And then finally, another thing I wanted to do is we'll take in, let's see. We'll take one of these. Actually, I'll take this one right here, this arrow, duplicate it, increase the size, bring it over here, give it a fill, make it that color. This one we'll place over here. Right there, looks good. Duplicate it, Control D. Bring this one over here. Get that lined up more evenly. All right. I'm kind of hesitant though. I'm not sure if I like this. Take this, make it darker maybe. Yeah, I like that. Whew, and that is it. So when I was designing, I was really trying to remember, okay, make sure you're describing what you're doing. And so I think the biggest takeaway that I had here is that, in relation to this design, one of the things that I felt like I really needed to stress is alignment and white space. That is one of the biggest things. Oh, and also contrast. Those three things, if you can get those three things right, you're generally going to be able to create a user interface that is well structured and easy to use for the user. This little experimental thing that may not be very easy to use, but I wanted to throw in something unique there just for the fun of it. But yeah, this is the design. Hopefully you're able to walk away learning some new stuff here in Adobe XD CC 1.0 and also about user interface design in general. All right, make sure you check out Corsetro. I'm Gary Simon, and also subscribe here on YouTube. See ya.